York. My dad grew up in the South, and we lived in New York City up in New York since just before I was born. So we were in New York suburbs. We were in Westchester, and we were a pretty, in many ways, a normal suburban family, but in many ways not. It was a very creative household. We painted everything. There were little faces on everything. My dad had tiling bathrooms we would design our own little animals, and we, do the mosaics in the bathroom and stuff like that. So there was a lot of creative stuff going on. And then because there was 5 of us, and he worked a lot. He would regularly work the weekend straight through without sleep. In season 1 of Sesame Street, he did all the puppets and all the animated pieces. He did everything. He and Frank Oz and Don Sahlin literally did what 80 people are doing now on that show. And so they just worked a lot. My dad would come home in time for 9 o'clock when we were going to bed. I remember he'd usually slip in like 5 to 9 to say goodnight. We'd see him a little bit in the morning before school. But we didn't really see him all that much, so we would go to work with him. And so I think that's what, when people say it must have been really crazy and magical, it wasn't so much that there wasn't Muppets at home and stuff like that. That was what my dad did. That was work. But because we never saw him unless we went to work, we would always be at work with him. He would if he was working on the weekend, he would always take at least 2 kids. Always. So everywhere we went, everybody would say, I can remember meeting really important people and being inappropriate. And, just, was that Jackie who? Oh, who? But, we would go to work all the time. And that was really fun, because I spent a lot of my childhood in workshops, playing with boxes full of eyeballs and making puppets, and we were all making puppets and puppeteering in the background, and all the way back. We'd be helping out around, and that made us also really close with the other puppeteers, and also, when I say it was kind of like a circus family, in that sense it was, because in television and film, the same people don't stick together for the most part. Actors never stick together, because you can only do so many productions together, except for maybe Monty Python. There aren't many places where the same group stay together, but with the Henson Company, it was all the same group worked together for years and years and years. So they were all like our family, and we spent a lot of time on the sets, and often. And there are photos of my oldest sister Lisa when she was a baby. My dad and mom puppeteering, and somebody was on set photographing, and that's my sister in a bassinet. with the cameras right there shooting live television. So we all spent a lot of time on the sets and in the workshops, and that was pretty wonderful. And then I just always thought I had a magical, creative dad. But when I went to work, it did feel like work, but everybody was laughing hysterically. But I do remember feeling kind of awestruck by the workplace and the work that they were doing. It was, for me, very impressive and fun, but very impressive. My dad didn't become famous until he did the American Express card commercials. So even though the Muppets and the work was enormously famous, nobody had any idea. So my dad could walk anywhere and nobody knew who he was. So we didn't have any of those issues until you don't know who I am, but you know what I've done. And then from then on, then he was a famous guy, and then things were a little different when we would go out together.
Anything else?
Thank you.